Welcome back to Final Cut, where we're going to interview a member of one of the biggest names, family names in British hairdressing. So welcome to Final Cut, Mr. James Galvin.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me, guys. It's an honour to be here. Thank you.
The name Galvin. Wow. It's a big name, mate. Big shoes.
It's big shoes. For me, it was definitely, big shoes, kind of growing up with it, expectations from outside of the business, probably more so from kind of within the business. But you get used to it and you just kind of go along with it.
Your uncle Joshua and your dad Daniel, but Joshua, one of my heroes when we first come into the industry, where he was doing stuff for the fellowship.
Yes.
Back in the day, heavily involved in that. How was it when you came into the family business? How was it like working with your dad and Josh? And
well, for me, it was only ever meant to be a part-time job for me. And 32 years later, I'm kind of still there, but kind of going in there, Daniel's a colourist. He was on one floor. Joshua was a stylist. He'd often be on the same floor as all the other stylists. So interaction with Daniel during the day, there wasn't too much. It was absolutely fine. It was quite kind of easy in that sense. But Joshua was kind of the person I kind of really looked up to as he was a stylist, and, as we'll all agree, a remarkable man, a really, really remarkable man who left an imprint on me. And I think kind of within the industry, and I think he's greatly missed. But, kind of being around him was inspirational, listening to him talk, watching him work, seeing his passion for others, his passion for education, his passion for the industry. It just gave me a completely different kind of insight into things.
I mean, what we want to talk about on this episode as well is about family dynasties. Yours is a big one.
Few generations.
And working with nepotisms, probably there's lots of families out there that have got hairdressing businesses together, and I think there's difficulties and there's pleasures working with her where you can share successes together, but I think when there's not good times as well, that it's even harder as well because it's family and it's quite difficult. And so I want to talk all about that. I'm going to take you right back to your beginning of your career.
Okie dokie.
So when you
right.
You remember, I spoke to James actually on Friday. I said, you booked us for a seminar with Wall many years ago, and we couldn't put a time on the time when it was. And he said to me, which gave me a shudder on a Friday afternoon, he went, if I remember rightly, you were just going through a divorce. So thanks for that, James.
Enjoy your weekend. Which one was that, Si?
Easy now. Rockefeller. So I can tell you though, I want to say this to you. We pulled up outside your store in London, which was in
Marylebone and George Street.
In George Street, and me and I think it was Michael Damiano at the time, and you've got plenty of staff there, 20 odd staff there. We were doing this barbering course, turning up at Daniel Galvin's, and James had a lot longer hair at that point, and quite formidable. We were really nervous before, and I don't suffer with nerves, but we were really nervous before we got in there. But you made us all feel really welcome. We had a great day.
That's good. And
listening to all the staff there as well, and when we came to the practical side of it, everything was superb as we expected. But we had a superb day, and it was great memories. And I think we've always sent messages now and again to each other, and but it's great to have you on the cut.
Thank you very much.
We're looking forward to interviewing you. So let's go back to the beginning.
Okay.
You come in from school?
I didn't actually. After school, I went to college for a year because, as I said, I didn't really want to get into hairdressing because all the family did it. Everybody thought this is what I was going to do, and part of me just thought, no, I'm going to do something different. Didn't know what it was, but thought it would come to me. So I went to college for a year. And then I was working part-time in East London at, my brother had a friend who had a wholesale cosmetics company. So I kind of worked there, and we turned up one day and the bailiffs were changing the locks on the doors. It was approaching Christmas. I was out of work. And Daniel said, come and work in the salon, just, assist, make teas, coffees, sweep up, you'll get paid for it. So I called, fair enough. I needed the money to buy Christmas presents and stuff for people. And then I started, and then it hit January and model nights started, because obviously in the industry, model nights tend to go on kind of through December. And I had to do a blow dry, and the person doing the education said, oh, James, you look like you've got a bit of a feel for this. You should think about doing it. And I thought, well, they kind of planted a seed with me there. And I thought, well, no, definitely going to do something else. So I kind of resisted for quite some time. But then eventually I gave in, and at the point that I kind of gave in, I kind of really loved it, kind of got very much involved kind of with the training and stuff. And then the rest was kind of history.
When did you first feel that, the pressures of being a Galvin, did you feel that early doors, or did that come a little bit later, or have you never felt it?
I felt it. I felt it, and probably at times, even to this day, you kind of feel it, because I think, as I said before, kind of sometimes expectations, just because of a name, are already raised up there, and if you kind of suffer with a little bit of kind of imposter syndrome, meeting those expectations can be quite nerve-wracking, you know. And I didn't like that. That I really was very uncomfortable with. So I suppose in that area, it was difficult. You know, it kind of has its pros and it has its cons, you know. It's a blessing and it's a curse all at the same time. But, you know, would I change it? Absolutely
it's
not.
It's a great place to start.
Absolutely,
However,
absolutely.
you added pressure.
Absolutely. And I mean, I
goes with
kind
it.
of did notice one thing that kind of stood out to me, and I remember it to this day, and I was an assistant. I'd been there for, you know, a couple of months maximum, and talking with a client, and somehow the client, she was kind of being a bit off with me. Fair enough. And then she found out I was a Galvin and completely changed how she was. Oh, she was suddenly very friendly. And I hated that. I absolutely hated that, because to me that was just not genuine at all, quite fake. And I kind of thought, am I going to be judged by people? Are people going to be friendly with me? Are people going to just be nice with me, or nicer than they will be to the others because I'm a Galvin? And I actually, for quite some time, I spent a very long time just trying to hide the Galvin name. So much so that even when I qualified and I went on the floor, I just put James on my business cards. I didn't want a Galvin. I didn't want it to give me any leverage over anybody else whatsoever.
Or be treated differently.
Absolutely.
Isn't that interesting? There's a lot of folk that would do the totally
My
exact
next
opposite.
question was, have you ever dined out on it, the name?
No.
But obviously not, because you're saying from an early age that you just like tried to drop the...
No.
See the resistance that you mentioned in the first instance, because again, it's interesting whenever you've got an entrepreneurial family, whenever there's that kind of, it's almost like it's written in the stars. It's like, yeah, they're going to grow up, they're going to take the keys
Next
off of me,
generation.
they're going to retire me, kind of thing. It's so stereotypical.
Yeah.
What was it like? What was the kind of main foundation behind that resistance? Was it the fact that you just didn't want to be another Galvin that was in that business? Was it that you wanted to rebel and do something different? That's why you tried college. That's why you tried the cosmetics business for a while. Or did you see in the future, did you look ahead and think, I might encounter things like you just said, where clients, when they realise the second name, they start to be different? Or was it a combination of all these things?
It's an absolute combination of all those things, to be quite honest with you. You know, kind of trying to kind of place them out is quite difficult. But no, you hit the nail on the head. It's kind of definitely a combination of all those things. You know, there was an element of rebelling against it.
Sure.
And the reason that is because the assumption from everybody that this was just my rite of passage, this was what I was going to do. It's like, well, actually, no, it's not. So I kind of wanted to be different. You know, and I'd also say I've always been slightly different to the rest of my family anyway. You know, I'm just a bit different character, really. So I wanted to do something different. And there's another reason why I became a stylist as well, because the majority were colorists, obviously highly influenced by Joshua. And then I didn't want to be treated any differently from other people. I really didn't. That makes me feel really uncomfortable. And even to this day, it makes me feel really uncomfortable. Sometimes the name, you know, it kind of makes, you know, as Simon mentioned, it's the Galvin name. So personally, it's a wonderful thing to say, and I should be very proud of it, but it does actually make me feel quite uncomfortable.
Do you not think as well that when you have a situation like that, it almost places a cap, or it almost limits like your future in a sense? Because again, going back to it, if you're expected to work in a family business and continue a tradition, there's a lot of pressure applied, whether it's intended or not. But there's also this kind of manufactured guilt almost, isn't there? That it's kind of like
lack of ability to move.
Exactly. And here's the thing: what is the hair and beauty industry all about? Creativity. But if you're putting a lid on that creativity and you're saying, of all the options that are out there for you, and I'm going to make this bold assumption that you're a creative person, of course, right? Of all of these options and opportunities, I'm actually going to limit it because of the family you've been born into. To me, that's like to do that to a creative person. It's like it's like the volcano about to explode. And I'm guessing you had a real sense of that.
I suppose so. I think when you've got different visions of creativity, that's when the issues kind of tend to come in.
And when someone tries to marginalise that, or whether it was direct or indirect, but if there's that expectation that that's what you're going to do, without actually acknowledging your views and what you want to achieve, I think that's something that's, needs to be challenged.
Absolutely.
So James, in your early career, you were working through your dad's shop, Daniel's, and then you opened up in Los Angeles?
Well, yeah, I spent quite a few years working in London for the family business. And during that time, I was very fortunate enough to work with some incredibly talented hairdressers, travel the world kind of quite extensively, really. We're doing fashion shows, whether I'm working editorial or other magazines. Being ambassadors to companies such as Weller and L'Oreal. And then I decided to take the plunge, and went to Los Angeles. I had a friend, a guy called Benjamin Mahappy, and an unbelievable hairdresser. I was very fortunate to be working alongside him. I still think today he's the most incredible hairdresser. And we had some investment, and we thought, let's do it. We can take it anywhere in the world we want. So we decided to go to Los Angeles and opened up what still to this day I think is the most beautiful salon. It was unique, exceptionally unique for the time, which would have been probably almost 12 years ago. Exceptionally unique. I didn't want a salon to feel like a salon. I didn't want it to be the typical kind of chairs sat very close next to each other, harsh lighting, just everything quite sterile. It was a real homely kind of clubby sort of feel. I don't mean like club, like party club, but I mean like a private members kind of club. Kind of did actually, at the very beginning, what we did, we kind of thought, if we could think of a brand out there that would create a salon, the type of salon we want, what brand would it be? So we kind of thought long and hard about it. But back then, Soho House had been going for maybe 10 years or so.
Soho House type of vibe.
And I kind of thought, you know what? If Soho House were to create a hair salon, what would it look like? And we had so much fun doing it, and it did actually look like part of it as well.
How did these ideas, like your ideas born from here, translate into the American market, especially Los Angeles, because it's so vibrant, it's so eclectic, but we always think that when people from the UK do business in the States, they're always viewed as being sophisticated, ahead of the time. That's what my perception of that is. So how did that translate when you opened up?
Well, I suppose, are you talking about it from business people, or would it be from clients?
I would say the community at large. I would say that people look at people from the UK. We have this with our magazines. Do a lot in North America, and they view it as, okay, it's from the UK. So many big names, so many like historical moments in time that you can point to and say the UK hairdressing scene has done this. It's created waves. It's done this, done that, and they always look at it as being super sophisticated and almost like this point of reference for everything. That's the way we've always found it in business, and I'd be keen to get your thoughts on it. But when you opened that salon and you mentioned that kind of Soho House type approach, it had to be different. Did that instantly translate to your customers, to your clients? Or was there a period of time where it had to...
No, I think they loved it. They loved it. It was new, and it was, different for what anybody else was doing over there.
So they latched onto it?
They loved it. Yeah, they absolutely loved it. I mean, listen, I'm making it all sound wonderful and lovely, but it was probably one of the toughest times of my life. It was very challenging to get that opened. Well, you come from like London, and you know how to operate, create a business plan and how to start a business sort of in the UK. But when you go there, you're dealing with very different numbers. You're dealing with very different laws, kind of like with the city and getting places open and having parking and licenses and kind of disabled access and all of this, everything. There's so many things to kind of take into account. And yes, you had to take disabled access into account when opening salons in London. But over there, they take it to another level completely, so much so that if you don't have it 100%, I heard stories that, somebody that might be disabled in a wheelchair or find it very difficult to walk or whatever it may be, would find the flaw in the business, whether you don't have a ramp in the front of the salon, but you have one at the back, and they sue you. Or you get shut down. Yeah. So we had a delay along the way, kind of getting it open, which cost us a hell of a lot of money. And we had to delay stop works for the best part of 6 weeks whilst we redesigned the whole of the front of the salon in order to put a ramp in there, even though we had access from the back. It was absolutely fine. And in the middle of the salon where the steps were, we had an access there. Everything was fine, except this one area. So we kind of had to do that. And also hairdressers, they earn different over there. You know, their starting percent is what we would consider to be a very good percent to be taken. So in effect, that really hit hard on the numbers.
Were your partner British as well, or were you American?
No, he was British. Ben's British, yeah.
So 2 Brits going over from London into Los Angeles. It's kind of a big step, that, isn't it?
It's a massive step,
It's a
Simon.
big, brave
It's incredible.
step,
Yeah.
It was a
Why
huge-
Los Angeles as well? You just
That's a good question. Well, you kind of think about it. Okay, the money was kind of put to us to say, listen, go anywhere in the world, anywhere. So I kind of thought, wow, okay, so if I'm going to go anywhere in the world, where would it be? I mean, you're from the UK, it rains a lot, it's quite cold, the weather's kind of hit and miss.
Try being from Scotland, pal.
It's very good. So you kind of think, okay, sunshine, instantly. You think, okay, fine. Yeah, New York as well was kind of nice in the summer. It's freezing in the winter. But I thought, you know what? I actually want to live by the sea. And if I'm going to move abroad, I want to live kind of by the sea. So that was a driving force in it to really, and also thinking that, you know, New York is a much more difficult market to crack or to get into, you know, than say LA. You know, you can go to Los Angeles, it's slightly different, you know, slightly different. But yeah, I lived by the beach. I lived in Venice. You know, loved living in Venice, fantastic quality of life. But you know what, as I said, because it was a stressful time, you know, trying to get it open, you know, trying to raise more money whilst we were there, trying to get hit by delays, you know, working kind of 7 days a week, trying to make this happen, you know, not having a day off. You know, you didn't really get to enjoy the Los Angeles I would have loved
The
to
experience,
enjoy.
yeah.
did you move your family there?
I did. Yeah, I was married at the time. And
You got two girls.
Two girls are grown up now. So yeah, to Liliana and Lenny May, they went to school there. They loved it. They had a great time. I mean, you know, they made friends abroad. They loved living by the beach. They're a good life. They're very, very, very good life there.
So how long did that last for then?
Well, it lasted for just under 2 years. And it got to a point where, because of the delays and many other things that kind of went on, financially it hit hard, like really, really hard, to the point where the business wouldn't survive if it had just the two of us, my Benjamin and myself, because we had rents, we had all these other aspects to kind of take into place, which were all tied up in the business plan initially, but after a certain period of time that had to stop. Now I was still trying to build a client base in Los Angeles, and that takes time, as we all know, building client base does. Benjamin is more of a session stylist, so he'd do like a couple of days in the salon, so he had an income coming from his session work that he used to work on film and actors, actresses and musicians and stuff, so that was great. He had that. So it kind of got to a point where we had to make a decision. One had to go. It was either he would move back to Sweden where his wife was from and he'd have to completely start from scratch again, or I could come back to the UK, I could go back into the family business, and I can almost, well, I wouldn't be starting off as I left because it cost us a fortune to be there, but get my life back on track a bit quicker and have the security of a company, which, being part of that company, that's one of the plus sides, you see. Yes. There's always the ups, you know. So it kind of made sense, financial sense, to kind of step away. So kind of the American dream for me stopped right there.
Cut short.
And it was a shame because we had big ideas, big dreams, and it was there were amazing moments. And seeing the salon open, seeing the way it looked, having the opening, the launch party, and the people that came to it, just thought this is it, incredible. So even though it didn't work out necessarily, even though the business is still going, I'm still unbelievably proud of what we did. We opened it, we got it open and made it happen.
How did you, well, listen, a lot of folk wouldn't have the balls to do something like that, because that is huge. How did the local hair community react? They're looking at it thinking, okay, these two Brits have just showed up on our turf. Was there a lot of that?
Not that I was aware of. I mean, finding staff for a new business is always very difficult.
Of course,
They're working for very kind of established brands that are all very close. I mean, there's a lot of hairdressers. Didn't realise there's quite that many over there, but they were kind of on your doorstep as well. So we were kind of up against it with kind of competition. But no, I mean, the hairdressers that we did meet and the big names that we did meet, they're all Very friendly.
Welcoming.
Yeah, very friendly. Yeah. And we were kind of like in talks with a couple of really serious names over there that were going to come on board. And, they're great. I'm actually still in contact with the guy now. He's still in LA. He's doing phenomenal with his own salon. Actually incredible. So as a community, I just think hairdressers kind of quite welcoming to each other wherever you are in the world. I think if you don't act like I say dick on this, but if you don't act like a dick, everybody's going to or you have a big ego and you don't think you're all something special, then, and you're humble, you get accepted.
You can all
anyway.
coexist.
Yeah, absolutely. I think as soon as you start saying, "Oh, I'm the big I am, and I'm better than you, and I can do this and I can do that," and that's a stumbling block right there.
No. So you moved back then to the UK.
Yeah.
And then you go back to the family business.
I did. Yeah. Moved back to the family business.
Is that a good decision?
Yeah, at the time it was the right decision. Mm-hmm. It was definitely the right decision at the time. I mean, also there's a lot of stress that came into all of that, mental stress, how it affects you. You have to kind of come back to the UK when everybody knows you've gone. You go back into a salon where you've got like 120 staff there. Oh, you're back. Why are you back? Every single client. Oh, you're back. Why are you back? Yeah. So for the best part of 2 years,
explaining away
story over and over again, and
several times a day, etc. Yeah,
you tell that story, it doesn't get any easier. And there's for a time it was really tough. I mean, I can talk about it really comfortably now, but back then it was a dagger in the heart. It hurt. It really hurt. So for me, I just had to really kind of keep my head down, work 6 days a week, build up my client base. Yeah, I got a hell of a lot of my clients back, but you do lose a few. You lose a few to other stylists in salon, you lose a few to other salons, but eventually kind of clawed it back. And the business had a lot. Daniel Galvin had a hell of a lot of mileage left in it. There was so many options of being able to expand, whether it be with salons, whether it be with products, whether it be with education, whatever it was. So I kind of saw that. And that was kind of like my driving force, is to kind of try keep growing that, get myself busier and get myself back into the
salon manager though, were you?
Yeah, sort of salon manager really. Yeah, I didn't really like the title of being a manager, and I actually don't really like titles, to be quite honest with you. It's another thing I've always felt very comfortable with. I was kind of a director. I was a director of the business, and that was enough for me. So we had our managers there. I find it easier to delegate, to be quite honest with you, than to be kind of saying, look, what time's this? You're turning up too late, or your work's not good. I would kind of see things. I didn't miss a trick. I would see absolutely everything that go on. And thank God we had different tiers of managers, so I could always kind of communicate with them, and anything that needed to be put into place could be done and dealt with.
Yeah, because I think it's like when I came to the shop, it's a big shop, especially downstairs were massive. There's a lot of staff there. But I did get the feeling while I was there, it was very kind of like cool, but well run in terms of disciplined.
Yeah, it's
you seemed to be a bit scary at the time when I was there.
You what?
You seemed a bit scary at the time.
Me, really?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I have to say you did.
Well, I apologise if I came across
not
like that.
scary in a bad way, but I just felt that we always feel when you walk in a room, sometimes that person's in a room. We've all got that kind of
presence, isn't it? Yeah.
But I felt when I met you first time, like, yeah, this guy's driven. It's like you could just tell that there was something about you that I might have been wrong. I might have got that wrong, but I just felt that you were like, yeah, you're the gaffer. You're in charge.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, that's kind of all I really knew. That's kind of growing up, so I kind of don't think of it as any other way since being kind of within the business. Yeah, I was a director of the business, and so kind of, I'd notice things that other people wouldn't necessarily notice. I'd be able to kind of say this needs to be done, that needs to be done, and get it done. Whereas somebody else kind of working on the shop floor might not quite have had the kind of influence.
And since you moved back from LA, have you seen anything in the UK, London, where you're working, that's like the salon that you opened, the little like Soho House type of vibe to it? Is there anything that you've seen similar?
Yeah, there's lots of little things that have opened up. I think barbers tend to do quite a cool thing. There's some barbers out there that have opened up some really cool spaces, like we can almost see like they kind of look a little bit like old kind of whiskey bar kind of places with the brick walls and everything. Yeah. And I love that kind of look. But not too much. No, not too much. And I think sometimes to kind of create something like that, there does need to be a level of investment. And what I do, I obviously understand that when numbers are being played out and how you're going to pay back this investment quicker, is it better just to kind of, do a salon as a salon should look and keep the prices down? Or do you spend that little bit extra hoping that you'll be able to get busier, could charge slightly more and get that return back in order to pay that investment off a little bit quicker? So there's not loads and loads of that. But I will say is where I'm working currently.
I was about to ask, yeah.
Well, I've kind of, I mean, I haven't been at the family business since COVID.
Is that personal choice?
Yeah. Yeah. It's personal choice. Yeah. It's a very long story, that one. But a very difficult choice. A very, very, very difficult choice because, working in family businesses is not easy. Families working together is not necessarily that easy. But when things aren't working out and there's a business that you've been in for pushing 30 years, and a decision kind of comes that if you step away, it's all gone. It's gone. You've got nothing to do with that. All the loyalty, all the time, all the sweat, blood and tears that you kind of put into growing the team, growing the business, growing the product company, it just gets left behind, because ultimately one day, if Daniel ever retires, then I would have naturally, and that was the given. That was what was going to happen, and I absolutely
that was the natural progression for you to take over from your
That
dad.
was absolutely it, and that would have happened one day. But it's when, God only knows. And sometimes kind of with family businesses, it's not all just around the family business. There's personal stuff comes in, life.
Families and
unfortunately
siblings.
that feeds into the business, and that's a shame.
You can't separate the two.
No
matter how.
This is a
So would third generation be in the business as well now? Like kids and your kids and have they not gone into the business?
No.
Or about your brothers and sisters?
Yeah, my brother and my sister, they work at the salon. My brother actually, he kind of went his own way many, many years ago, had a salon in Belgravia, which isn't kind of there anymore, but he's back at the family business. And my sister, she does like, if a day a week within she works in the Kensington salon, but she has a product line and she obviously has, a number of children. So that all keeps her kind of very busy.
Yeah.
So I mean, my brother wasn't at the business. My sister kind of was there just to service a few clients, and that's kind of really it. So it was kind of me that was involved with the business, me that was involved in all the meetings, me that was involved in financial meetings, whatever it was, employing staff, training staff, running the salon, and I would work between all three salons. I'd go between the George Street, Selfridges, and Kensington. So kind of all the team knew me.
Yeah.
Not so much my sister because she was never really around. And my brother, because he had been out of the business for many, many years. So it was naturally going to be me that would be kind of taking over and overseeing that. But I had to let it go. Because I think, as you were saying before, you kind of, the bar is kind of there and you can't go further because your vision may be different.
Sure.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Were your vision different to maybe your dad's vision?
I'd say so, yeah. I would say so. He's a remarkable man, remarkable man, and he's been an incredible businessman. And what he's done with that business over the years has just been, it can't be faulted, honestly. He's done an incredible job, yeah. But then to sustain it, the times we are now, you have to adapt, and even more so now, because since COVID, everything changed overnight. The whole industry completely changed overnight. The business model,
Yes, absolutely,
does not work anymore.
I don't know how you do it.
No.
But I pick my dad up every Saturday to go watch my son play football. And sometimes, I don't think he'll watch this, but I'll say it anyway, but sometimes it's an away game with longer journeys. And he'll tell me about 40 jokes that are all crap, but he's laughing halfway through to tell me the joke. And he's tapping me while I'm driving me. Funny that, innit? Have I told you that? Yeah, you've told me about 20 times. I took him on Saturday and he said, put this piece of music on. And it was some music. And he was like, you'll be playing this all the time. I won't. And so I get it. Just them, I'd struggle to it with my parents. But I think just in general, there's so many hairdressing families out there. We've got Rob Eaton coming up later in the series, and the Eaton family is a big dynasty up in Yorkshire.
Yeah.
Rob's won British Hairdresser of the Year twice. I think it's hard working. What advice would you give to our viewers who work as a family business? If you could relive some of the stuff or do some of the stuff slightly different, would you? And if you would, how would it be?
Excellent question. Absolutely. Definitely would do things differently. Absolutely. For starters, I think any family business, regardless of how successful it is, there has to be mediation. There has to be a mediator. Okay? So you don't bring in the person.
You don't bring the baggage into the room.
The family drama or who's not talking to who. You don't bring that into the business. You don't expose it to the business so the team don't see it. Because when that happens, the team feel it. And when the team feel it, it unsettles the whole business, everybody. It creates an atmosphere which people don't like to work in.
So as you said before, it either has a absolutely fabulous effect on the whole business or a completely detrimental, depending on what the fallout or the success was.
Yeah. And you need to be on the same page, regardless of whether you don't necessarily agree or you have different ideas. That needs to be kept yourself. That needs to be discussed in meetings in a room which is away from the rest of the staff. Okay. Yeah. So they don't know, this one wants to go in that direction, that one goes that direction. So then there's kind of bad feelings. So there has to be a mediator. There's got to be people out there in business that do that. And I'm pretty sure there are. In fact, I know there are. That would be somebody or a company that would have come in many, many years
They
ago.
normally appoint an MD or something.
Someone from with the
commercial, like you say, mediating type role.
Yeah.
That sort of manages the situation.
Well, we had a meeting with somebody up in Leeds and their family business, and they fetched us somebody in outside that were now running the business.
Yeah.
I say it's almost kind of like a business therapist.
Yeah.
Like a business therapist that can work with, how can I say this politely?
Multiple personalities.
Fantastic. I was going to say that. I was actually going to say slightly dysfunctional characters.
What about the people who are like working not in city centres with big, they've just got like a nice salon, but it's mum, daughter, son, or maybe three of them that's in the business. Dad's running the business, he does the books. Their stylist. What advice would you give them? Is it like, do you sit down regular team meetings? Do you share? What advice would you give to family businesses?
It's kind of similar to what I just said. It's just like, do not allow your personal stuff to feed into the business so the staff don't see. Be aligned with each other, whether you agree or you don't agree. But you have to find a middle road. You have to find a middle road. Owners, directors, the founders of the company, you have to have a vision going forward. You have to understand that things change. Listening to the generations below is extremely important. Being able to compromise and being able to kind of shift a little bit is very, very important. If a owner of a company is set in their ways, and those ways may have been very successful for them at some point, well, for quite some time, doesn't necessarily mean they're all going to be successful all the time. That's why it's always take on other viewpoints as well.
So we've gone from the Galvin dynasty, gone off to Los Angeles, we've come back, we've had lockdown. What's next? Where are you now?
What is next? Lockdown happened, the stepping away from the family business happened. I was going to open my own salon. I found a beautiful space. I actually wasn't even going to use my surname for it, not because I could have. There were no legals put in place, so I couldn't. Sure. There are other sort of legals put in place, but that one was, I could have gone and been James Galvin, but I wasn't. I wasn't going to do that. I was just going to be, it was going to be Salon James, so that would be it. So it wouldn't ride on the back of the Galvin name. And that was after the first lockdown. I'd found my team. I'd found the site, a beautiful space, which then I was going to start to create again, something that was me. I pulled all the mood boards together. I spoke to big people within the industry that were happy to get kind of involved. We managed to raise the money. We negotiated a fantastic deal with the lease. And then the second lockdown was approaching. It was approaching. And that was getting scarier and scarier. And I'm thinking, I'm going to take this on. We're already taking on a business that's You know, you're not going to be operating at capacity because you're social distancing and all of this.
Sure.
I started to worry, and I wasn't sleeping at night. Then my mental health just took a beating, an absolute beating, and I was just kind of in a bit of a state. And then the lockdown happened, and I just pulled the plug. I can't do this. I can't do this. One, I don't feel mentally strong enough to kind of deal with this because there's going to be pressure. I don't think I can do it. I'd underestimated how much the moving away from the family business and everything that kind of tied into that for me kind of getting to where I was then had really taken its toll. You know, only, you know, it suddenly dawned on me, but then again, I still didn't have any idea how much more it was going to take its toll on me going forward over the next kind of few years. So I kind of just sat back and thought, you know what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hide. I'm going to hide. I just needed to keep my head underground, still try and do a little bit of work. I had other issues kind of going on, like in other family members of my private life, which was very, very hard for me to deal with, very, very difficult for me to deal with. And I just need to kind of get my strength because I suddenly felt weak and weaker than I'd ever felt, and my mind wasn't in a good place. It was a very, very dark place, and just needed to kind of get strength back and just work kind of day by day. So the idea of having a salon had been pushed aside. I still had a few clients I was kind of seeing, and I was kind of, when you eventually get out and go and work, I kind of did that, which was kind of nice. That was good for me. That second lockdown killed me. 3 months being at home. You know what? You got to pay your bills. No income. You got to pay your bills. You've got these demands. What am I going to do? I'm looking at other jobs. Do I drive a van? Do I go and do delivery? Do I even contacted a client of mine that worked at Royal Mail? You know, is there anything I can do? You know, it's kind of pretty scary. But anyway, managed to kind of get through that lockdown and come out the other side, thank God, and just slowly, very, very slowly kind of build myself up. But even whilst I'm still building myself up, you know, I was kind of in a bad place mentally, and that then became the driving force, is to get myself well again. You know, I literally hid away. I didn't talk to my friends about this. You know, my partner at the time, she was aware. She was very aware of it, but nobody else. My children, I kind of try to hide it from absolutely everybody. Clients, you know, it's like, you know, if you have a bad day, you got a client, you got to be jolly, you got to be happy. So it's kind of everything. Every day was just an act.
That must have been draining.
It was draining.
It is, though. I keep things in. I don't share it.
See, when you mentioned the lockdowns, I'm always fascinated by this because everybody, all of a sudden, all these clients realised the true power of their barber, their stylist, their hairdresser, their beautician, that it was actually the cheapest form of therapy. And everybody talked about that. And I felt like that was a big moment for the industry to actually recognise the true value and importance of the people behind the chair. But what people haven't really spoke about is that that's very much a two-way street. Now, you might have a bag full of issues or problems or things on your mind, but also I would imagine sometimes being able to delve into someone else's and take a break, take a holiday, a vacation from your own issues and things that you've got going on, and be able to be supportive. And often doing that, giving, is better than receiving a lot of the time. So
absolutely.
But you didn't have that during the lockdowns, and nobody's really covered that. Nobody's really said, yeah, we missed our you know, the stylists and our barbers and our hairdressers, but nobody's really said about the mental impact upon the people behind the chair that also lost.
They got offloaded onto, and they had nowhere to go.
It's
crazy,
been an
isn't
aftermath,
it?
I don't want to touch on COVID too much, but the aftermath, people are coming out now, you know, even on this season, as you know, we've had a few guests who have talked heavily about the mental health, and I think it does help our viewers. So even if it's just like, because as you're talking, I'm saying I'm similar to you. I don't let my kids know if I'm dead. It's like, you just get on with it, you know. It's just like you want to be the strong character, the happy person, the winner, the hero. And sometimes, you know, internally you're not, and you struggle.
Well, it's the worst thing you can do, really, you know. Absolutely. Which I've learned, you know, holding it in, it's just, you know, it's going to manifest in you one way or another. And that's exactly what happened. And it just got to a point where I broke. I completely broke and hit what I would consider to be my rock bottom. and had to really climb and work very, very hard to get out of that. So I'd say the last kind of 4 years has been toughest 4 years of my life.
So where are you now then?
So now listen, right now, I mean, I'm in a fantastic place. I have to say, I feel happy. I feel alive. I have energy. I feel it's incredible. And part of that, I think, is the journey that I've kind of been on. I've learned so much. I've learned not just much about other people, about the business, about the industry, but also about myself and what works for me and what doesn't. And I kind of was in a setup for such a long time where things just weren't working for me. Whereas now I'm my own person. I'm my own boss in a sense, and I can do realistically kind of what I want. And I found peace, you know. To have peace, you cannot put a price on peace. So now I'm working a beautiful salon in Hampstead. I stumbled across this completely by mistake. I was meeting a friend at the cinema, and I was half an hour early, and I thought, well, I'm going to go for a stroll down the high street. And I was getting to a point then, which would have been last November. I need to get back out into the industry again. I cannot keep away. Sure. I cannot hide. I have to get back out there. And 15 minutes down the road, I thought, okay, fine, I've got to go back now. And I stopped outside what used to be an old bank. And I remember the banks. I've hung out in Hampstead for donkey's years, especially as a kid. I thought, wow, what an amazing building. And I looked at the reception area and I thought, God, this is beautiful. I love this. All the dark wood paneling, because it's an old listed building, really, really high ceilings, huge windows. And I thought, what is this space? And as I glanced a bit further to the left, I saw that there were salon chairs and stations. And I was like, and that's it. Instantly, I thought, that's the place I want to be. Because, back to your question, is that is the closest thing I've seen to what I did in Los Angeles. It has that.
And you just happened to walk
just
across this, and
serendipity ended up being there.
Fantastic.
It gives me goosebumps. Look, just
unbelievable.
goosebumps just actually talking about it.
Just come up again though on this final cut. Other people have spoke about things aligning, things happening for a reason. Crazy, right time, right place. You know. So the salon's called?
It's called Salon Vacrat.
Vacrat.
He's called
beautiful.
Vacrat.
It's absolutely beautiful.
It's a beautiful salon. The owner is ex-Sassoon. He was educator at Sassoon. So he wasn't really ever a salon stylist. He was an educator, spent lots of time traveling the world, Israel, and spent a hell of a lot of time in Japan. I respect him hugely for what he's done. He's taken on a salon, a big space. He's got beauty there, 7 beauty rooms, which are actually downstairs in the old vault of the salons. It's very cool down there. You still go down there, you've got the big old vault, which they offer all services. I mean, even down to the point they've got studios there where they offer yoga. Yeah, you can do anything. You can come into that building in the morning and leave at the very end of the day and had a number of services. And he's got a good vision. I respect and I admire his vision. You know, he's taken on board a big deal, but timing, believed it was right, took it on at a time, not long after COVID, took on a big responsibility. But I see it, even just a short period of time that I've been there, which is kind of like 3, nearly 4 months. I just see it growing. I see it getting busier. I see more beauty therapists coming in. I see more people talking about it.
And what's the vibe like in there? Does it suit you?
The vibe does, yeah. I mean, the team are great. You know, also, I mean, when I saw the salon, instantly, the first thing I did as I'm walking back up the hill to the cinema, I'm Googling, I'm looking at the salon, I'm kind of going onto the website, I'm reading who are the team that will be there, what are their bios, you know, not because I think, oh, you've got to have a great bio, but by reading a bio, you get to understand who they are a little bit more.
Of course you do. Yeah.
And I just thought, you know what, everybody's really humble. There doesn't seem like there's a big ego inside. The owner has no ego. Not one of the staff have egos. They're all really lovely
That's
people.
Normally a top-down situation.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I couldn't agree with you more. And they were so welcoming, really, really welcoming to me. But the salon vibe is chilled, it's relaxed, and very, very, very friendly.
So you went to see him?
I did. I went back to see him 2 days later, because I was on Saturday, so I went in on.
He didn't make you do a trade test, did he?
No, he didn't.
Don't tell me that. He didn't say, right, fetch a model in, let's see what you've got.
He didn't, but he does do that to people, and I get it. You know, when I had the place in Los Angeles, it's kind of that you wanted to kind of get. If you hadn't seen their work, you'd want to see it physically, to check it, to make sure it's okay, because you want to keep your standards up. And he's really, really into keeping the standards high because he's Sassoon. So, I mean, listen. Background of Sassoons, for me, to be quite honest with you, to be Sassoon trained
it's
as a
military
hairdresser,
trained, isn't it?
It really is. I mean, there are no mistakes, aren't acceptable. It's as close to perfection
it's
as you
either
can get.
right
Yeah,
or it ain't.
Absolutely. And, you know, thank God he didn't ask me. I mean, but then again, I did train as sassoons for a bit as well. Part of my training, I went to the academy for 9 months, which was amazing. So I think he saw my approach to hair is quite similar to kind of his anyway. So no, he didn't. And then he kind of did his homework, I think, and as well. And I think he probably knew that, I've been around for a bit, and maybe I didn't need to do.
So you're happy,
Bob? I am very happy.
Feeling good?
I feel great. I really do. I feel great.
You look great as well, by the way.
Thank you very much.
You said
very kind you say that.
You were seeing somebody else outside, and like your hair looks different, and you look good.
Well, I'm definitely different to kind of what I was when I went into hiding. That's for sure. I did have long hair. I was very different. Now it's kind of short hair. God knows what's happening. They're leaving it to grow a little bit.
Short.
Well, it was short. I mean, it was like this. The last time I shaved it off, kind of about your length actually. Top was a bit shorter back in October, and I just haven't cut it since. I've kind of just left it.
See, just having listened to this, like you radiate this kind of like good feeling. You can tell, you can get that sense of it, but. That journey, and we'll just say it's the 4-year journey that you mentioned, from kind of rock bottom and hiding away and almost like a retreat, if you like, to today where you can get that sense. You've got this vibe about you. You can tell that you're in a good moment.
He built himself back up, hasn't he?
100%. Is there, for our viewers, specific moments within that journey or specific actions that you took or others took that you can look back on now and say, that was critical. That is a huge stepping stone to get me to where I am today.
Well, I mean, the biggest thing that stopped me plummeting was medication.
Mm-hmm.
That helped. That really, really helped.
So seeking help in that sense.
And getting kind of, and going on to meds to kind of just stabilise everything.
Sure.
Because the thoughts were too dark and the anxiety was just crazy.
How did you build from that stability that you sought out? How did you then build to this point?
Just, getting outside, getting outdoors, walking.
Day at a time kind of thing?
Walking all the time, just walking, starting to read more. Just starting to be more present, more aware, and accepting that, everything that's gone on is in the past.
Sure.
And there is a future ahead, which, the song Live Forever that came on at the beginning, I was kind of deciding which song do I decide. You suddenly say, choose a song. It's like, what am I going to sing? I relate to so many different songs. Yeah. I thought, but that one takes me right back to being like in my early 20s, late teens, early 20s when that kind of came out. And to me that was like the epitome of youth and just freedom and peace, and you just had the whole world.
Song takes you back to that time as well, doesn't it?
It does. But what it's also done is when I listen to it now, it's kind of more like, so now it doesn't matter what I've had a whole lifetime since then. I've got married, I've had a partner, I've had 2 children, they've grown up, gone off to university. A whole lifetime's kind of happened. But the song does take me back, but to the point where I'm realistic enough to kind of think, well, it can still be from now. I'm 50 years old, so even from now going forward, it's still so many opportunities.
Absolutely.
So much
just for our viewers, what happens is when our guests are in the green room, as they walk into the studio, we play their favourite song or their song of a choice. So it's a bit like a ring walk as you walk into the challenge of the podcast. So James's was Live Forever Oasis. That's what we're referring to.
Yes.
James, I've asked you another question. Twofold on this question. Who's been the biggest influencer on your career, and who's been the biggest influence on your life?
On my career, I'd say there's 2 people, I'd have to say. One is Joshua, number 1, without fail. Absolutely. And another guy is a man called Brendan Fowles, who I assisted. You know Brendan?
I know.
Now, Brendan worked alongside Joshua for many years, and I was lucky enough to be Brendan's assistant for quite some time. And, he...
What a cutter, by the way.
Yeah. He opened up, the world of hairdressing to me. His advice, he was almost like a father figure to me. I looked up to him, If ever I had something deep to talk about, I would talk to Brendan about. I still do. I saw Brendan the other day, actually, and I can unload on Brendan more so than I can on anybody, really. So, yeah, he's been a real kind of influence on me. What was the second one?
And in life? even though those two people, Josh and Brendan, will have played a part in, but I'm talking them on your hairdressing career. In life, who's been the biggest influence?
I don't know. I struggle with that one, to be quite honest. Who's been my biggest influence? I mean, I'm an observer, a raw observer. I don't miss anything. I'm always looking around. I'm always looking at people, learning. I'd probably say, I can't say any names, I can't say any particular people, but I kind of watch what people do and I don't like what they do, and I spend my time doing the opposite, being the opposite. So I would say I influence myself from what I observe.
Excellent.
It's a brilliant answer. Yeah, good answer. Super.
Yeah, thank you for giving us the insight into your journey.
Thank you very much.
There's a lot of people that probably don't know you that well.
Yeah.
I remember years ago at the fellowship, I think you won either the Look of the Year or the Image of the Year, Patsy Palmer.
There was a restart. I chopped her because she does have an insane amount of hair. It's crazy, but we kind of cut it off quite short, and it created a little bit of a stir at the time, which was kind of fun and it was good. So there was a fellowship evening where I had to present the model on stage, and then with a lot of other people. Errol was actually there. I remember him working alongside me, and I'm thinking, I felt the pressure as Errol Douglas next to me.
We've got Errol coming up on some interviews on this season as well, so
that should be very entertaining.
That
should be very entertaining.
Yeah, Errol sent me 10 songs actually for when he wants to work, so he said to me to surprise him, so make sure you finish off. We're going to finish off with some quick fire questions.
Okay, go on
just
then.
to get a little bit. So tea or coffee?
Coffee.
Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
EastEnders or Coronation Street?
EastEnders.
What's your favourite music?
I'd say kind of rock.
And if you had to go into a desert island, who would you take with you? One person, one buddy. Who would you take with you on a desert island?
When's this going out?
That's another one. I kind of like my own company, I have to say.
Yeah?
Yeah, I do. I'm really good with my own company. So
I'm good with that because I've got like 7 different personalities. So I said
you never run out, say.
You're on a long drive and it's fine because I've got 3 personalities in the car, and I'll have a chat with all of them while I'm driving. Some are good, some are bad. Some's the dark side.
Yeah,
it's very
I can
true.
make myself laugh sometimes. Yeah, I don't nag myself. I don't moan at myself. It's great. I mean, I had some fantastic conversations
What's
with
not
myself.
to like?
But it's a difficult one to kind of say who I'd like to be with. It'd be somebody that's in my life, like a friend or relative or just somebody, anybody. I don't know. I tell you what, okay, I can say this. It's basically because this one person knows me better than anybody in the world, in my family, knows me better than my family. And he's a mate that I've grown up with since birth. We were next door neighbours. Okay, so I've known him the best part of 50 years. Yeah, I don't have to say anything, and he knows exactly what's going on with me. Whereas I could hide it from the rest of the world.
Give him a
Can't
shout
hide
out.
it from him. It's Galvin.
Well done, Gav.
Yeah,
He's going to take you on a desert island. He's going to take you on an holiday, all expenses paid, just to see whether he said on the podcast that would be good for a week.
I'll definitely do that, absolutely.
James Galvin from the Galvin Dynasty, and what a great interview we've just done there, finding out about James' career and where he's gone from and where he is and some of the trials and tribulations and the successes that he's had. Great guy to interview.
Thank you.
Thanks for being on Final Cut.
Thank
It's been
you.
amazing. Thank you very much.
Fantastic.
Guys. I've loved it.
Brilliant.
Well done.